93% of everyone who entered this facility died screaming. The human walked in anyway and asked if this was the place that kills everybody. The human walked into our testing facility like she owned the place, which was hilarious considering 93% of participants never walked back out. My name is Thex Quarian, Senior Observational Analyst for the Galactic Proving Grounds, and in my 200 cycles of service, I have watched exactly 4,762 beings attempt the trial of absolute determination. I have also watched 4,309 of them die screaming, begging, or both. The survival rate sits at a comfortable 9.6% though. Comfortable is probably the wrong word if you are one of the corpses we incinerate weekly. When the human delegation submitted their application 3 solar rotations ago, the entire observation deck erupted in what I can only describe as polite laughter mixed with genuine concern for their mental stability. Humans? The species that just barely figured out faster than light travel? The ones who still eat processed meat tubes and call it cuisine? Those humans wanted to attempt the trial that broke the Korthian War Masters and killed the supposedly immortal Zenith monks. The council approved it anyway. Entertainment value, they said. I called it a death wish with paperwork. She introduced herself as Kira Voss, planetary salvage specialist, whatever that meant. She stood maybe 5.5 feet tall, which put her at chest height to most species present. She had dark hair pulled back in what humans call a ponytail, scars running down her left arm like she had argued with a plasma cutter and lost, and eyes that looked like they had seen the entire universe and found it mildly annoying. So, she said, hands on her hips, staring up at the crystalline dome that housed the trial grounds, "This is the place that kills everybody, huh?" My colleague, Vern Tal, a hexapod scholar with 12 PhDs and 0 sense of humor, adjusted his optical sensors. "Not everybody, 9.6% survive. Your species attempted this trial once before, approximately 47 standard years ago." "Yeah," Kira tilted her head. "How did that go?" "He died in the 5th challenge, extremely painfully. We have the recording if you would like to reconsider your application." She smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Nah, I am good. But thanks for the pep talk, buddy." The gauntlet, as we call it internally, because trial of absolute determination is a mouthful even with 3 tongues, spans 17 square miles of artificially generated hellscapes. The Galactic Council designed it 6,000 years ago to test potential ambassadors, military commanders, and the occasional suicidal thrill seeker. Each challenge adapts to the participant, targeting their species-specific weaknesses while amplifying environmental hazards to lethal extremes. The point? To prove you can survive anything. The reality? Most beings cannot. Rintal pulled up the holographic waiver, which was 17 pages long and written in 43 languages. You understand that death is the most likely outcome? That the trial does not pause for injury, exhaustion, or pleas for mercy, that your remains will be incinerated and your genetic materials disposed of according to galactic sanitation protocols, Kira signed, without reading. Yeah. No refunds, no survivors, no problem. When do we start? I exchanged a look with Vorental. His antennae drooped in what I recognized as second-hand embarrassment. "Immediately," I said, activating the arena. "Good luck, human. You are absolutely going to need it." The first challenge materialized around her in a shimmer of hard light projection and very real gravitational manipulation. Gravity wells, 16 of them, arranged in a spiral pattern leading to the exit platform 200 meters away. Each well generated between 8 and 40 times standard gravity depending on proximity to the core. Step too close, and your bones turn into powder inside a meat sack that used to be your body. The Korthian War Masters had treated this like a dance, using their naturally dense skeletal structure and low center of gravity to navigate the safe zones. The Zenith monks had attempted to meditate their way through, achieving a mental state that supposedly transcended physical limitations. They transcended straight into a fine paste. But points for creativity. Kira stood at the starting platform, studying the wells. The gravitational distortions created visible ripples in the air, like heat waves made of crushing death. She pulled out a small device from her belt, tossed it forward, and watched it get yanked sideways into a well with a crunch that made Vren Tal flinch. "Okay," she muttered. "So, not that way." The previous human attempted to calculate a mathematical trajectory, Vren Tal offered, pulling up the recording. Jonas Webb, astrophysics specialist. He mapped the safe zones using advanced computational algorithms, created a step-by-step path, and and made it approximately 60 meters before miscalculating the interference pattern between wells 7 and 8. On the screen, Jonas Webb's confident stride turned into a stumble, then a lurch, then a horrifying compression, as two overlapping gravity fields caught him simultaneously. His death lasted 4.3 seconds. It looked like it felt much longer. Kira watched the recording without expression. Huh, math guy. Got it. You are not concerned? I asked. Oh, I am terrified, she said cheerfully. But being scared never stopped gravity from crushing you, so what is the point? She did something then that made absolutely zero sense. She sat down, removed her boots, tied the laces together, and slung them around her neck. Then she pulled out what appeared to be a climbing harness and a coil of high-tensile cable from her pack. What is she doing? Vrintal asked. I have no idea, I admitted. Kira attached one end of the cable to the starting platform, then hurled the other end in a wide arc. It sailed past the first 3 wells and snagged on an outcropping near well 4. She tested the tension, nodded, and then, barefoot and grinning like this was fun, stepped onto the cable. She tightrope walked it. The absolute madwoman tightrope walked across a gravitational death trap in her bare feet, using the cable tension and her own balance to stay above the safe zones Jonas Webb had tried to calculate. When the cable started dipping too close to well 6, she unhooked, dropped into a forward roll, and came up running across a narrow safe strip that our sensors said was only 14 centimeters wide. A gravity fluctuation caught her left side. She gasped, stumbled, and for a moment I thought we were about to watch human number 2 become a very short statistic. But she twisted mid-fall, grabbed a protruding sensor array that was definitely not supposed to be used as a handhold, and hauled herself onto the exit platform with zero dignity and absolutely perfect survival instinct. She lay there, breathing hard, staring at the ceiling. Time to completion. 2 minutes, 18 seconds, Vrintal announced. Antennae quivering. That is the 4th fastest time on record. Kira gave a breathless thumbs up. Cool. What is next? The second challenge did not wait politely for her to catch her breath. The exit platform descended into a sealed chamber that immediately began flooding with a gaseous compound we affectionately called Everything Killer 7. Because the first 6 variations had not been quite lethal enough for the Council's standards. The atmosphere contained sulfur dioxide, chlorine gas, trace amounts of hydrogen cyanide, and a custom neurotoxin that attacked the central nervous system of approximately 98% of known species. Exposure time before unconsciousness averaged 45 seconds. Death followed within 2 minutes, give or take some convulsing. Oh come on, Kira coughed as the yellow-green fog rolled in. Seriously, I just got here. She slammed her hand against the wall panel, which displayed the objective in 43 languages, 12 of which she could not possibly read. The goal was simple: cross the chamber, unlock the pressure door using 3 separate control panels positioned at different heights and distances, exit before respiratory failure. Simple. If you happen to breathe methane or had a closed circulatory system. For oxygen breathers like humans, less simple. More, start planning your funeral. Credit where it is due, I said, watching her yank a rebreather mask from her pack. She came prepared. The rebreather will buy her maybe 3 minutes, Vrintal countered. The neurotoxin absorbs through skin contact. She is already contaminated. Kira sealed the mask over her face, and I had to admire the stubborn set of her jaw right before the transparent polymer covered it. She moved quickly to the first control panel, entering the override code that was displayed, helpfully, in a script that required compound eyes to read properly. She squinted at it, tilted her head at 3 different angles, then just started pressing buttons in what I can only describe as aggressive trial and error. That is not how you solve a cryptographic lock, Vrintal said. And yet, I pointed at the screen where the first panel blinked green. It worked. The second panel sat 12 feet off the ground, because the trial adapted to species capabilities and apparently decided humans could fly. Kira stared at it, at the smooth walls, at the rolling toxic fog now up to her knees. She wedged her climbing cable into a ventilation grate, tested it twice, and hauled herself up hand over hand. Her arms shook. The neurotoxin was starting to work, degrading muscle coordination and nerve response. A hexapod would have been seizing by now. A Corthian would have been dead. Kira was sweating, which was actually helping. I realized with some surprise. Humans sweat, a biological quirk most species find disgusting, and her body was actively excreting the neurotoxin through her pores. Not fast enough to save her, but fast enough to buy time. She punched in the second code with trembling fingers. Her central nervous system should be shutting down, Brental insisted, checking his readouts like they had personally betrayed him. Maybe human nervous systems are just too stubborn to get the memo, I suggested. The third panel required a biometric scan, specifically a retinal pattern. Kira ripped off her mask, pressed her face against the scanner while holding her breath, and slammed her fist on the confirmation button the moment it blinked. The pressure door shrieked open. She dove through it, rolled onto clean floor, and immediately vomited, which was unpleasant but statistically better than dying. The med scanners ran automatically. Neurotoxin levels, elevated but dropping. Lung damage, moderate. Overall status alive and apparently angry about it. She wiped her mouth, glared up at the observation cameras and rasped, "You people have serious issues. You know that, right?" Rental's antennae stood straight up, and what I had learned was indignation. The trial is functioning exactly as designed. Yeah, Kira coughed. That is what I said. Issues. The observation deck had filled up considerably by Challenge 3. Word spreads fast when a human is actively not dying, and apparently half the station wanted front row seats to the inevitable failure. I spotted at least 40 species represented, including a cluster of Korthian veterans who looked personally offended that Kira was still breathing. The maze materialized around her. 2 square miles of shifting corridors embedded with motion sensors and populated by 6 Ravager-class combat drones. For context, a single Ravager drone is designed to hunt and kill armed military units, 6 of them in an enclosed space against 1 exhausted human with a climbing harness and an attitude problem. The betting pools opened immediately. 500 credits she dies in the first encounter, announced a Valorian merchant, his scales shimmering with amusement. 1,000 says she survives 10 minutes, countered a hexapod engineer. Brental did not bet, but his antennae twitched in a way that suggested he was calculating odds. The Ravagers are programmed to hunt based on movement, heat signatures, and electromagnetic emissions. They are relentless, efficient, and completely without mercy. So, like my ex-husband, Kira muttered, studying the maze entrance. She could not hear us, obviously, but the audio feed picked up everything she said. Fantastic, she did not run in. That was the first surprise. Every other participant had either charged forward with misguided confidence, or frozen in panic. Kira sat down, opened her pack, and started pulling out items like she was preparing for a picnic instead of a fight to the death. Emergency flares. Check. Magnetic clamps. Check. What appeared to be a jar of some kind of paste. Check. Question mark. The first Ravager found her 6 minutes later, its optical sensors glowing red as it rounded the corner with claws extended. These things stood 7 feet tall, moved at 40 miles per hour, and had enough cutting power to shred reinforced hull plating. Kira threw the jar at it. Did she just? I started. The jar exploded on impact, coating the Ravager in thick, sticky, foul-smelling paste that immediately gummed up its joints and optical sensors. It thrashed, sensors screaming error codes, trying to scrape the substance off. Is that peanut butter? Brental asked, genuinely baffled. I think it is synthetic adhesive compound, I corrected. Or possibly both. Do humans eat adhesive? While the first Ravager flailed, Kira used her magnetic clamps to scale the wall, positioned herself on an overhead beam, and waited. The second Ravager arrived, drawn by the distress signals. She dropped an emergency flare directly onto its sensor array. The magnesium burn hit 3,000 degrees instantly, fusing circuits and melting targeting systems. 2 down. 4 to go. The Korthian veterans had stopped laughing. Kira moved through the maze like she had done this before, which was impossible because humans had never passed this challenge. But she read the Ravagers perfectly, understanding that they hunted in coordinated pairs, that they communicated through electromagnetic pulses, that their programming prioritized direct confrontation over tactical adaptation. She used that. All of it. She lured the third and fourth Ravagers into a narrow corridor, then triggered a controlled collapse using shaped charges she had apparently been carrying this entire time, because why not? The falling debris crushed one and trapped the other. The fifth Ravager actually cornered her in a dead-end section. I watched her eyes go wide, watched her back against the wall as the drone advanced with claws raised. She smiled, pressed a button on her belt, and the magnetic clamps she had been leaving throughout the maze activated simultaneously, creating an electromagnetic pulse that fried the Ravager's circuits mid-lunge. The sixth one she just outran, sprinting through corridors while it chased, until she hit the exit threshold where drones could not follow. She collapsed against the doorframe, gasping, covered in dust and synthetic adhesive, and what might have been Ravager hydraulic fluid. Time to completion, Vrintal whispered. 18 minutes 41 seconds. That is a new record. The Valorian merchant slowly put his credit chip away. Kira looked up at the nearest camera and grinned. Still alive, folks. Sorry to disappoint. Challenge 4 did not look like much from the outside, which made it exponentially worse than the ones that actively tried to kill you. Just a simple white room 20 meters square, completely empty except for Kira and whatever nightmares the neural interface system decided to pull from her subconscious. Oh good, she said flatly, staring at the featureless walls. The therapy session nobody asked for. The psychological warfare challenge worked by hacking directly into the participants' fear response, memory centers, and trauma receptors. It created personalized hallucinations based on their deepest anxieties, regrets, and failures. The Zenith monks, the ones who supposedly transcended physical limitations, had lasted 6 hours before their minds shattered. Most species broke within 90 minutes, begging for release that would not come until they either solved the central puzzle or went completely catatonic. The puzzle itself was elegant in its cruelty. Somewhere in the hallucinations, hidden among the fear and pain and regret, was a mathematical sequence. Find it, solve it, speak it aloud, and the door opens. Simple if your brain was not actively melting from psychological torture. Kira sat cross-legged in the center of the room and waited. "What is she doing?" asked a newly arrived observer, some kind of crystalline entity I did not recognize. "Waiting for the horror show to start," I replied. "Give it 30 seconds. 20 seconds later her breathing changed. Her eyes went distant, unfocused. The hallucinations had begun. We could not see what she saw, which was probably a mercy. But we could monitor her vital signs, watch her heart rate spike, see stress hormones flood her system. We could see her flinch at things that were not there, hear her whisper names we did not recognize. Thomas, no. Thomas, please. Mom, I tried. I tried so hard. It should have been me. It should have been me." Vrintal looked away from the monitors. Even he, with his 12 PhDs and professional detachment, found this challenge uncomfortable to observe. "This is barbaric," he muttered. "This is the trial," I reminded him. Nobody said personal growth was pretty. 40 minutes in, Kira started laughing. Not hysterical breakdown laughter, but genuine dark-edged amusement that somehow sounded worse. "You know what is funny?" she said to the empty room, tears streaming down her face. "I have already lived through the worst day of my life. I watched my entire crew die in a reactor breach I could not stop. I held my best friend while she bled out because the med bay was 20 seconds too far away. I got court-martialed, dishonorably discharged, and blacklisted from every legitimate salvage operation in 3 sectors." She wiped her eyes, still smiling that terrible smile. "So, what are you going to show me that is worse than what actually happened? Huh? You want me to relive it? Fine. I relive it every single night anyway. The only difference is here I get to leave when I solve your stupid puzzle." She stood up, walked to the north wall, and started examining it like the hallucinations were not still tearing through her psyche. Her hands shook, her breathing stayed ragged, but she moved with purpose, tracing patterns only she could see. "The sequences in the burn scars," she whispered. "Thomas always said I wore my failures like a map. Turns out he was right." She rattled off 17 numbers in quick succession, her voice steady despite the tears. The door opened. Kira walked through it without looking back, and I realized something that made me profoundly uncomfortable. She had not solved the puzzle by overcoming her trauma. She had solved it by accepting that some wounds never heal, you just learn to function with the pain. "Humans," Vrintal said quietly, "are absolutely terrifying." For once, I completely agreed with him. Challenge 5 was where Jonas Webb died and the observation deck went absolutely silent as Kira entered the chamber. Even the betting pool stopped. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for, the place where human ambition met quantum physics and lost catastrophically. The quantum bridge existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, which sounds impressive until you realize it meant the path forward changed based on observation, intention, and about 40 other variables that most species' brains simply could not process. You could not see the bridge, not really, you could only see the probability of where it might be, flickering in and out of perceivable reality like a migraine given physical form. The exit platform sat 300 meters away across a chasm that dropped into actual nothingness. Not empty space, but the complete absence of existence. Fall off the bridge, and you did not die. You simply stopped being. The universe forgot you ever existed. Your atoms unraveled backwards through time. No pressure. Replay Jonas Webb's attempt. Someone called from the observation deck. Tal hesitated, antennae drooping, but complied. The holographic recording showed Jonas, confident and brilliant, stepping onto the bridge with sensors attached to every part of his body. He had tried to calculate the quantum variations, predict the probability collapses, map the safe path using pure mathematics and advanced physics. He made it 140 meters before the bridge collapsed under him in 7 dimensions at once. The recording ended there. What happened to his constituent atoms was not suitable for viewing. Kira studied the chasm, the flickering non-space where the bridge existed and did not exist. She pulled out a small object from her pocket, something that looked like a coin. She cannot possibly think that will help. A Valorian observer scoffed. She flipped the coin. Heads. She nodded once, then stepped onto the bridge without any sensors, any calculations, any visible plan whatsoever. What is she doing? Tal demanded. This is suicide. This is not even attempting to solve the challenge. But I was watching her face, and I understood. She is not trying to calculate it. She is refusing to observe it. That makes no sense. Exactly. Kira walked forward with her eyes half closed, humming something under her breath. Every 3 steps she flipped the coin without looking at the result. The bridge flickered, solidified, collapsed, reformed. She stumbled twice, caught herself on railings that appeared only when she needed them, kept walking like she was strolling through a park instead of dancing through quantum uncertainty. The bridge exists when she needs it to exist, I said, watching the probability readings spike and crash. She is not trying to predict it or control it. She is just trusting it. That is not how quantum mechanics works, Tal protested. Tell that to the human currently halfway across. Jonas Webb had failed because he tried to understand the bridge, to impose order on chaos. Kira was succeeding because she accepted the chaos, worked with it instead of against it. The coin flips were not calculations. They were a way to stop herself from overthinking, from trying to observe and collapse the probabilities into failure. She reached the exit platform 298 steps later, opened her eyes fully and looked back at the bridge that flickered one final time before stabilizing into something almost visible. Huh, she said. Guess Jonas was thinking too hard. The observation deck erupted into absolute pandemonium. Tal just stared, all 12 of his degrees suddenly feeling inadequate. The final challenge was not a challenge at all, not in the traditional sense. It was a conversation, which somehow felt more dangerous than everything that came before. The trial master materialized in the center of a circular arena, a holographic projection of the Galactic Council's combined consciousness. It took the form of a 15-foot-tall geometric shape that hurt to look at directly, all shifting angles and colors that did not exist in normal space. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere, resonating in frequencies that made your bones ache. Kira Voss. Human, you have survived where 4,309 beings have failed. You stand now at the threshold of completion. But survive alone does not grant passage. You must prove you understand why you survived. You must demonstrate wisdom earned through suffering. Kira, covered in dust and dried blood and what was probably Ravager fluid, looked up at this cosmic entity and said, "Is this where you ask me what I learned about myself? Because I gotta be honest, I am way too tired for a philosophical discussion right now." The observation deck gasped. You did not sass the trial master. You just did not. The geometric shape pulsed with something that might have been amusement or might have been the prelude to disintegration. Your species attempted this trial once before. Jonas Webb, astrophysics specialist, failed at the quantum bridge. He was brilliant, prepared, backed by your finest scientific minds. You are a disgraced salvage worker with a criminal record and unresolved trauma. Explain why you succeeded where he failed. Oh, that is easy, Kira said, sitting down right there on the arena floor like she was at a coffee shop instead of facing down a godlike entity. Jonas tried to beat the trial. I just tried not to die. Totally different goals. Elaborate, she shrugged. Jonas wanted to prove humans belonged here, that we were smart enough, tough enough, whatever enough. He treated the trial like a test he could study for, a problem he could solve with the right equations and enough preparation. But this whole thing, she gestured at the arena, at the observation deck, at everything, is not about being smart. It is about being too stubborn to quit when everything is trying to kill you. The trial master shifted, angles rearranging. And you believe stubbornness is wisdom? No, Kira said, standing up and meeting what might have been the entity's gaze. "But I believe accepting that you are terrified and doing it anyway is stronger than pretending you are not scared. I believe using peanut butter against killer robots is valid strategy. I believe sometimes the only way through hell is to stop trying to understand it and just keep walking." She took a step forward, and I swear the trial master recoiled slightly. "You want to know why I survived? Because 47 years ago, you killed Jonas Webb, and every human who heard about it said, 'See, we do not belong out here, we are not ready, we should stay home where it is safe.' And I looked at that and said, nah, that just means we need to try harder, be weirder. Stop playing by rules designed for species that make sense." Another step forward. "Jonas died because he respected the trial. I survived because I did not. And yeah, maybe that makes me reckless or stupid or whatever, but I am the one still breathing, so who died last time? Not me." The silence that followed was profound. The trial master's form stopped shifting, solidified into something almost comprehensible. "Kira Voss, human, you have completed the trial of absolute determination. You are the 4,454th being to succeed. You are the first human to do so. You are also the first participant in recorded history to insult the trial while completing it. So, do I get a trophy or what? You get to leave alive. For your species, that appears to be trophy enough." The exit portal opened, brilliant and gold and absolutely beautiful. Kira walked through it without looking back, and the observation deck erupted into chaos. The council chamber convened in emergency session approximately 47 minutes after Kira walked out of the trial facility, stole a hovercart because apparently grand cosmic achievements do not include free transportation, and headed straight for the nearest bar. I know this because I was still tracking her biometrics, which showed elevated adrenaline, dropping cortisol levels, and the unmistakable signature of someone consuming alcohol entirely too fast. Council member Zeratheus, a Korthian war master who had completed the trial himself 60 years ago, slammed 3 of his 4 fists on the table. "This is unacceptable." She mocked the trial. She violated the spirit of the challenges. She used peanut butter. "The rules do not prohibit peanut butter," Rintao pointed out, antennae quivering with what I now recognized as barely suppressed glee. "They do not prohibit anything except outside assistance and lethal force against observers." She stayed within parameters. She called the trial master pretentious. Zerathis roared. "She called it a lot of things," I corrected. "Pretentious was actually one of the nicer ones." The debate raged for 3 hours, which was 2 hours and 59 minutes longer than it took for the council to realize they had no grounds to invalidate her completion. Kira had survived, solved every challenge, and met the criteria for success even if her methods were unconventional, barely sane, and mildly insulting to everyone involved. The official announcement went out on all galactic channels. Humanity's second attempt at the trial of absolute determination, success, Kira Voss, officially recognized. Survival rate for humans, 50%, which was statistically hilarious given the sample size of 2. I found Kira 6 hours later at that bar, 3 drinks in and arguing with a hexapod engineer about the proper way to calculate gravitational interference patterns. "You know you are famous now, right?" I said, sliding onto the seat next to her. "Every species in the galaxy is talking about the human who beat the trial with climbing rope and condiments." She snorted. "Great. That will look amazing on my resume right under dishonorable discharge and blamed for reactor breach that killed 14 people. You could have died today. Multiple times." "Yeah," she said, staring into her drink. "But I did not. And honestly, after everything I have been through, everything I have lost, walking through that trial was almost easy. Not because it was not terrifying, but because I have already survived worse. The trial can throw physics and poison and killer robots at me. It cannot make me live through losing my crew again. That already happened. I am still here." She looked at me then. Really looked. And I saw something in her expression that I had been seeing throughout the entire trial but only now understood. Humans were not fearless. They were not unstoppable. They were just incredibly, impossibly stubborn about continuing to exist despite every logical reason to give up. "So," she raised her glass, "who died last time?" "Not me, and not next time either." I had no response to that. "Honestly, I do not think the galaxy did either."